What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today I have another affordable device from China and this is probably the smallest phone I've seen in the past 3-4 months. So this one right here, it's called the Mix One and it costs somewhere around $77. So what do we get for that $77? Well, first of all, we get a fairly good looking phone and a phone that you can actually hold and use with one hand, and that's not something that we see every day. Aside from that, we have a 5-inch screen with a 720p resolution, we even have a fingerprint scanner on the back, we have a 5 megapixel camera on the front and a 5 megapixel camera on the back. For specs, we have the MTK6580A CPU, this is a quad-core CPU clocked at 1 GHz, we also have 1 GB of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage. Now unfortunately we only have about 3.5 gigs left after the operating system, but luckily the phone can take an SD card and that SD card can also be used as internal storage. And as you imagine, this is not the fastest phone out there, but what can you possibly expect for about $77? Alright, so moving to the back of the device. The back of the device, it's made out of plastic and it's also removable, and if you remove the plastic back you have access to the 2 SIM card slots, the slot for the SD card and the 2100 mAh removable battery. Now the battery life, it's not horrible but it's not mind-blowing, so you're kind of gonna be able to make it through an entire day and get about 3 hours and a half of screen on time, which is not bad considering that we only have a 2100 mAh battery. And going back to that fingerprint scanner that sits just below the camera, well, first of all, the fingerprint scanner works maybe 7 out of 10 times and it's also not the fastest fingerprint scanner out there. So it takes about a second after you press the fingerprint scanner for the screen to unlock. And since we are still on the back of the device, you also have the speaker on the back there. So first of all, the speaker is somewhat easy to cover whenever you're holding the phone. Secondly, it's pointed away from you. And thirdly, it's not that loud. But here is a quick sample of how the speaker sounds. Now the camera. So on the back of the phone we have a 5 megapixel sensor and on the front we have another 5 megapixel sensor. The phone is using that stock MediaTek camera app that's not the best camera app out there. So first of all, it takes a while to focus, mostly if you don't have plenty of light, and the camera app doesn't have that many options either. Both cameras do much better than I was expecting, mostly considering that the phone only costs about $77. So if you have plenty of light, the pictures turn out quite sharp and detailed, and once again, for a phone that costs $77, they do look quite good. Of course, if you don't have plenty of light, the pictures aren't gonna turn out as good, but that's quite normal for much more expensive phones. So for a phone that costs $77, I think it takes decent enough pictures with the front and the rear cameras. Alright, and we are moving back to the phone. So the frame, it's made out of plastic. On the right hand side we have the power button and the volume keys, and those ones are also made out of plastic. On top we have the 3.5mm audio jack, and the sound coming out of the audio jack is just average, so nothing spectacular. I wish it would be a bit louder. Nothing on the left hand side, and all the way at the bottom we are gonna find the micro USB charging port and the microphone. The phone doesn't support OTG and it takes about 2 hours and 10 minutes to fully charge it from 0 to 100. The 5-inch screen, it's an IPS panel that has a resolution of 720p, and I know that that doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the size of the screen, I think that the resolution is more than enough. The colors are very vibrant, the viewing angles are also good, but the screen doesn't seem to get that bright, so taking this phone outside may be a bit difficult to actually see it. The screen can register up to 5 touches in the same time, and the screen sensitivity is just average, so I did find myself having to type the same letter on a couple of occasions, so definitely not the best sensitivity that I've seen. Performance-wise, well, you can't really expect that much from that MediaTek 6580 CPU, so the scores that we are gonna get on the Antutu benchmark and the Geekbench 4 are somewhat low, but normal for that CPU. The phone is running Android 6 and the UI is very close to stock Android, so there isn't that much that holds the phone back. Well, I mean, aside from that slow CPU and the 1 GB of RAM. You are still gonna be able to install apps and use apps on this phone, but everything is done at a much slower pace. So it really depends what phone you're coming from, because if you're coming from a high-end device, this phone is gonna feel very slow, but if you're coming from an entry-level device that's like a few years old, this is gonna feel quite good. I was even able to play a couple of games on the phone. Of course, this is not a gaming machine, but the phone should do okay for most light games available in the Google Play Store, but of course it really depends on your expectations. Moving on to the GPS unit inside this phone. So first of all, it takes 20 to 30 seconds to find your location, and depending where you are, you may see the phone losing your location every now and then as well. As for sensors, well, we don't really have that many sensors and we don't have a gyroscope, so if you're planning to use this phone as a VR headset, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Moving on to connectivity, so this is a 3G only device, and that means that you're going to be able to connect to the 2G and the 3G networks depending on where you're located, and we don't have dual band Wi-Fi either, so the phone can only connect to the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi bands. Now the speaker on top here, it's louder than most other phones that I tried in the past 2-3 months, so that's a good thing, and the speeds over Wi-Fi, they are decent, but definitely not the best that I've seen. And it's time to conclude this video. So for a phone that costs under $70, I think this offers a lot of value because realistically you can't really get that much for under $70. And with this one we get a good looking phone and decent performance for the price, of course. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, don't forget to press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.